Warrnambool has a lot to offer the tourist all year round, so I decided to catch the train there for a short stay. Even though having to walk limited how far I could go, there was still plenty to see and photograph. A motel that was not too far from the station and was both comfortable and reasonably priced was my accommodation sorted. A few minutes walk from Warrnambool Centre is a Soldiers' Memorial at Cannon Hill, unveiled in 1926 to commemorate those who served in World War I. Cannon Hill, near the Aboriginal War Memorial, affords a panoramic view of Lake Patobe in the foreground and the bay in the distance. Beyond Port Phillip Bay, Warrnambool is the largest seaside city in Victoria and has many buildings and churches that date back to the late 1800s. The beaches at Warrnambool are a popular spot for bathers and surfers, but as the colder months are here, there are only a few hardy souls left in the water. Whale watching is a popular interest between June and September. Logan's Beach to the east is a breeding ground for the southern right whale, and there is a deck by the beach offering views of whale activity. Across the road from the foreshore and next to Lake Patobe is a perfect place to share lunch with some winged friends. Lake Patobe is heralded as a year-round family attraction and adventure playground for kids, but taking to the lovely walking tracks that circle a lake reveals a great variety of birds. Some birds migrate from the northern hemisphere to spend the summer on the lake. The Warrnambool Botanic Gardens are within walking distance of the city and cover an 8.1 hectare site. Winding paths take you by various varieties of trees, pleasing lawns, rockeries, shrubberies, flower beds and a man-made lake. The Botanic Gardens are one of the earliest in Victoria, dating back to 1866 and added to the Victorian Heritage Register in 2006. They are highly valued for their role in landscape, botanical and horticultural education. Around autumn each year, colonies of grey-headed flying foxes migrate to the gardens for a few months' stay. Originally located on Cannon Hill, this 1813 cannon was manufactured by the Carron Ironworks foundry in Scotland. These cannons were significant in the early defence of colonial Victoria. Rebuilt in 1985, the fernery displays ferns that are found in the Otway Ranges, and a visit is a perfect way to end my walk through these beautiful gardens. Following my walk around the Botanic Gardens, a visit to the gardens at the former Fletcher Jones factory seemed appropriate. After the factory opened in 1948, the gardens that are now very well known across Victoria were created by Fletcher Jones for the benefit of his staff and to beautify the factory site. The gardens, with their well-kept lawns, sculptures, rockeries, water features, the flower beds and baskets, with colourful and intricate displays of annuals, are of great aesthetic significance. They are a rare and outstanding example of a mid-20th century ornamental garden created in an industrial setting.
And we got some stories to tell you.
This was a treacherous coast with unpredictable winds and currents and hidden rocks and reefs that could send a vessel and all on board. The pioneers had their own stories and legends. The story of the shipwrecked coast was just beginning.
Well, I have a story to tell you.
The highlight of any trip to Warrnambool is a visit to the Flagstaff Hill Maritime Village. A multimedia presentation greets you, then a walk through the museum housing many items from shipwrecks that occurred along the Great Ocean Road leads you to exit to the period village. It is a reconstructed 1800s coastal port village built around the original lighthouse and fortifications. The upper lighthouse, still in use today, was relocated from Middle Island to its current location on Flagstaff Hill in 1871. For a colony that was largely dependent on shipping for its communication, lighthouses were a vital part of the maritime infrastructure. In 1887, as part of the colony's response to fears of a Russian invasion, a fort was constructed near the lighthouses to house two rare muzzle-loading cannons with a range of 5.5 kilometres, although they were never fired in anger. The village part of the complex has over 40 buildings and vessels spread over 10 hectares. It was opened in 1975 and replicates an 1870s period village with volunteers performing tasks in period costume. Over the years, an extraordinary collection of equipment, furnishings and other items has been accumulated to add authenticity to the village. Taking a walk around the village is a reminder that the lives of those early pioneers was both challenging and difficult. Without the modern day comforts that we take for granted, they were forced to rely on the ocean for resources and communications. Many of the buildings display the commercial enterprises that were necessary to support the shipping as well as the well-being of the townsfolk. The signs on this building bear witness that multitasking is not an invention of modern society. Flagstaff Hill Maritime Village displays an invaluable representation of the early settlement of towns along the coast of Victoria in the 1800s, and will continue to add to the narrative. The sheer volume of material on display at the Maritime Village makes a visit to Flagstaff Hill worthwhile for even those with only a mild interest in our colonial history. The stories here are not just about ships, they also bring to life the characters who risked everything to reach a country that was still largely unexplored. Warrnambool's coastline forms part of the beautiful but sometimes treacherous shipwrecked coast. The 1800s and 1900s saw hundreds of ships wrecked along this part of the coast, the most well known being the Lockhart in 1878. These shipwrecks were often caused by a combination of strong winds blowing the ships off course and into uncharted and dangerous waters. It is believed that less than a third of the wrecks have ever been found. A series of inquiries in the mid-1800s led to the construction of much-needed lighthouses. It has been a most enjoyable few days in Warrnambool, and I hope to return one day as there is still plenty more to see.